Good day and welcome back to another week of Talking Technical. And as always, thank you for the requests. And remember, this is a free service to the community. You can find us on YouTube. Just type in Frans or Klerk and you will probably find all the videos there. And thank you for all the people over the years that say that they watch it regularly because they also use it as a method of learning technical analysis, maybe sometimes understand a candlestick or a resistance line or a support line better. And that's the idea behind the shows, is to show you what we see. And if you've got a request, feel free to send it in. And first of all, we need to chat about Sasol. Now, Sasol, is one of those shares that actually just go one way, and that is down. They came out last week with some bad results. They said, listen, guys, things are tough. We struggle with the coal that we need to get. We struggle with gas reserves. And what they say is also the oil price doesn't help them a lot. And even the rand is also maybe not too weak to help them. So everything is just doom and gloom for them. And everything is just going one way. And that's why a lot of people would like to short the share. Now, I always say if you want to short the share, it sounds stupid, rather short it close to a top rather than close to a bottom. Because just on this chart, from last year, July, the share dropped from 425, let's make it 425, all the way down to 142. I mean, that's a massive drop. Yes, you can still short it because it can still go to 100 Rand or even 50 Rand. I can remember in 2020 when the share really fell apart, the share went much lower. But for me, for at the moment, I just think it had one hell of a sell-off, and all the indicators on the weekly charts and even the monthly charts are grossly oversold, and everything is down. And I've seen it over the years that if you've got a waterfall formation, sometimes in time to come it gives a rally like this waterfall formation. Yes, it worked hard to get to the top, but it did give a little bit of a bounce before it went down in one way again. So the best here is to watch for what is happening here at the bottom end. Now, if I look at the chart, this candle, and I always like to look at lower shadows. This lower shadow is telling me that there's some buyers around nibbling at the bottom. There was another lower shadow, but as we know, it looks like there's a little bit of a consolidation building up here. Now, if you look at the chart here, there's the resistance line, the big resistance line. I just want to draw it in there. There's the resistance line. And where's the support line? There's the support. I just want to get it. There you are. There's the support. And the share is now making up its mind if it wants to break above out of this consolidation or break to the downside. Now, some people will say, yes, it's just a consolidation and it should break to the downside because the trend is clearly to the downside. You are 100% correct. Look at the 40-week moving average. It tells you that it's only one way, and that is to the downside, and the momentum is clearly downwards. But for me, if I look at this chart can tell you that there's maybe a surprise move to the top brewing, but only above that high of that little candle there, because that is the high of the consolidation, is sitting at 155.38. This consolidation can break to the upside and it can maybe take the share. Let's see where it can take it to. It's not a big move, but all big moves starts with small moves. And let's have a look here. There you are. If you take the consolidation and you just extend it a little bit, it can take the share maybe back to 174.05 if it breaks above this level, and that is sitting at 155.38. So yes, if you want to buy it, remember this is a weekly chart, so each candle here is a week, and there's another week and another week. So for me, remember, it must break above this level of 155.38 before you can say that the trend or this consolidation wants to break to the upside. If you do buy above 155.38, make use of a stop loss of 136.04 to play safe so that you don't lose your capital, but everything is against the share and everybody hates the company. Everybody say it can go lower. Yes, that's maybe true, but I've also seen after a massive sell-off, you can easily see a quick relief bounce, and before you know, the trend can change, and maybe the company will also come with good news, and then the share can really start to turn for the better. Let's have a look at Nvidia. I mean, that is the giant of America. I mean, this is the company that is actually holding the whole S&P and the Nasdaq up. And I mean, this company is so big, I think it's surpassed Nike now. It's bigger than Costco. We will look at Costco in a while from now. But look at this share. I mean, just from January, it went up from 492 to just below 1,000. It went up as high, I think, as 974. Yeah, 974 on the dot on last week, Friday. And now we see a possible shooting star developing. Why do I say a possible shooting star? Because you haven't got a confirmation yet. A shooting star will only be confirmed if the low of this candle, and I just want to draw it in there, if the low of this candle gets taken out with an ugly bearish engulfing or a bearish candle. What you sometimes find is before it breaks this level, and that level, by the way, is sitting at 834.17. Before it breaks this level, it sometimes works a few weeks after that, and only then it breaks. But this possible shooting star is making me nervous. It tells me there's some sellers selling in at the highs. They're keen on selling, but there's something else that's catching my eye. Look at this gap. And there's the gap. I just want to draw it in here. There's the gap. This gap is between 834.17 and the high of 823. Now, this little gap tells you that the momentum is still to the upside, because we know in future, or in the past, that when a share starts to open up a gap, it tends to trade away from the gap. But I think in this case, after this massive rally, if there's some selling to take place here, we can maybe see that this gap gets closed. And this will only happen if 834.17 turns into a resistance, and then it can close the gap at 823 on the dot. So if you do want to short it, it's maybe time to short it in this area. Make use of a stop loss of 974. And boy, oh boy, I think if this level breaks, we can maybe see the share pulling back here. And where can it go to? It can easily go to these three shares, the three candles here. Look at it. There was a little bit of a breather or a consolidation a few weeks back at around 720. It can easily pull back there. But look at this uptrend. I mean, look at this lamp pole formation. One massive rally in the couple of last weeks. I mean, just from January, to give you an idea, from $145, sorry, January last year, to almost $1,000. I mean, in a year. Can you believe it? I mean, that's a massive rally. So for me, I'm a little bit nervous on Nvidia, and I think it can maybe surprise us all. If it turns down, it can maybe take the S&P down as well as the Nasdaq. Let's have a look at Costco. Now, Costco is one of those massive retailers in the world. That they are mostly based in America, and they are selling everything. I mean, from hardware to food to everything. And what is happening here? It went up beautifully from November. It went up from 541 to just below 800 Rand. But what do we see? On last week, especially on Friday, it came under immense pressure, and now we see a shaven bottom candle. Now, a shaven bottom candle is a negative candle. So I will say, let's have a look here. I'm going to draw in the line there. That's the low of this candle. And that low is sitting exactly at 725.10. So below 725.10, the share can easily go down. And what do I see here? I see an ugly gap quite lower. I hope it doesn't go there, because that will be an ugly sell-off. But it can go there. And that, I will just give you the levels now. I just want to draw it in here so that you can see clearly that there is a gap. And remember, this is a gap on a weekly chart. That is quite a serious gap, and that gap sits below between 66188, and it will only close at 61361. So at 61361 it will close, and it will open up at 618 76. Wow. So there's quite a big gap. I mean, that's about $100 from where this is. Now, this candle is a negative candle. It tells you there were some strong sellers around, and those buyers that bought the shares here right at the top will only be happy above 78708. Then the share can actually go a little bit higher. Yes, if you look at the share over the years, it tends to give a pullback and then eventually it just goes higher. But I always say rather buy at the bottom than right at the top, and you believe that you're going to get another $100 to $150 out of the share, and then it turns around and it burns your fingers. Let's have a look at Capitec. I mean, that's one of those stars of the market. They came out last week and said, listen, we're going to print some wonderful results. Look at the 40-week moving average beautifully to the top. It is positive. But what I do not like, I see this kind of a, there you are, you will see here. I see this rising wedge. Now, a rising wedge for me always is a warning formation. A rising wedge tells me that the share is going up, but the gap is narrowing here at the top end of it, and it can maybe show us some ugly reversals here. But where's that? And I would like to say to you that the big level here is, let's say, the middle. I just want to get that there. All the opens up and the closes, they are around there. So it just shows you there's a few candles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 candles. That tells you that this is an important support line. And that line is sitting at 2031. Only below 2031, you will see the first tiny crack in this rising wedge, because I always look at the first tiny cracks. And where will it break to the downside? It will only break to the downside below that candle there. I just want to see. There you are. It will break below 111,997. Let's make it 2,000 Rand, because the share of 2,020 Rand, if there's a 3 Rand difference, it's not massive. But below 2,000 Rand, it can easily break to the downside. And where can it go to? Let's just do the projection here. I just want to extend it a little bit, and you will see that I will extend it to the downside here. Let's have a look here. If I extend it to the downside, this massive company can maybe go, there you are, to 1,811, but I think it will probably go close to this 40-week moving average, and that is sitting at a 1,830 Rand. But on the other hand, you know by now that the share can also go up, and the high was 2,139. Above 2,139, it can go higher in this wedge. It can maybe go as high as 2,200 Rand, but I just a little bit warned about this, because this rising wedge tells me eventually there will maybe be a little bit of problems. And remember, previously in this area of 2,100 Rand, there was some resistance. Let's see if it can maybe go above that. But at the moment, just be a little bit nervous. It can maybe surprise you to the downside. Let's have a look at Karoooo. I mean, everybody loves this technology companies, and South Africa's got one with the name of Karoooo. And if I look at this chart, look what I see, and that's what makes me a little bit nervous. Let's use that. I used it for something else here. I see, look at that, a classic ascending channel. There you are. Just want to draw it in there. There you are. Can use it there. I just want to draw it in there. There you are. There. A classic ascending channel telling you that the momentum is to the upside. Nothing is wrong, but look at your 40-week moving average. This 40-week moving average sits exactly at the support line, and that is at 454 Rand and 42 cents. Unfortunately, below 454.42, the share can surprise you, and it can go all the way. Let's just do the projection, and I hope that I'm wrong, because this company, Karoooo, can maybe surprise you then and go all the way down to 371.40. Why do I say that? Because if the 40-week moving average is negative or a resistance, you can see an ugly sell-off like this. The shares, they never like the 40-week moving average to turn into a resistance. But let's watch. It's not yet there, but if it gets confirmation, be careful to buy the share. Well, thank you for watching the show. Thank you for visiting our website, www.fransdeklerk.com, for more info, and we will chat again.